Right, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast and welcome to this roundup show for Sky Bet League One on this Sunday morning. We weren't here last Sunday because of a lot of games being postponed due to international call-ups. However, we return with a bang. Some really interesting games to talk about today. 4 selected in total. Looking at them from a tactical perspective, how do those games pan out? The lineup, some key players as well. Really excited to be going into detail on some of those games. Like I say, 4 selected, but we will be touching on most of them and looking at the league table as well, because how are things shaping up after 10/11 games of football? Let's have a little look. If you enjoy the episode, please make sure you leave a like and subscribe. On the road to 3.3 thousand subscribers. Thank you so much for your recent support. We're growing by the day. Hit the notification bell as well and the bell. It will notify you when I go live, audio recorded episode just like this one. You don't want to miss out on the episodes because you just don't. You just don't want to miss out on them. I couldn't give you any other explanation. Hopefully you do enjoy it though. And let's get straight into it. Starting off with Cambridge United against Derby County. Right, so Cambridge United versus Derby County is where we start. Paul Warne's first game in charge as Derby manager. It starts off pretty well, a 2-0 win away to a difficult Cambridge United side. 10th now Cambridge after that defeat. 3 defeats in their last 5. That is a little bit frustrating on their part. 16 points now from 11 games, the same amount of defeats as wins. As for Derby County, 8th in the league after that victory, after those 10 games. Back-to-back wins for them now on 17 points, really climbing now to close that gap between themselves and that top 6, ultimately where they want to be. Looking at the game by looking at the attacking momentum graph here, first half very Derby County. In fact, I'd say the majority of the game Derby did look in control, and when Derby weren't really going forward, it was fairly equal, and you'd say that Derby didn't really allow Cambridge to get a sniff in the game and really stop them from trying to create anything. You can see by looking at the individual stats, we don't normally look at them first, but you can see over 7 for the majority of them. As for Cambridge, not really any player getting into the game, really struggling to take control and change the game. And look, these are quality players: Sam Smith, Joe Ironside in particular, Jack Lancaster, Adam May and Paul Digby, the real double pivot that's been working so well for Cambridge United. These players not really trying to get, they're trying, but not really able to sort of get any sort of rhythm in the game for Cambridge. And we know when you do allow Cambridge to get rhythm, they can be very, very dangerous. They've proven that so much in this season so far, but also last year as well. But Derby, they didn't allow them to do that and played really, really well in the game. We'll come on to James Collins in just a second, because I know a lot of people, we wanted to sort of speak about him. So when we spoke about in the preview how important it was for Warne to try and get James Collins firing again. We know the type of striker that he is. He's getting on a little bit. He's not full of pace. He isn't going to bring you the abundance of speed up top, but he's going to provide you a really, really good finisher. And he is a real finisher. Somebody who will tuck away a lot of chances if he gets them, and he got 2 yesterday afternoon. We'll come on to him in just a second. But looking at the game, first half, very Derby County. In fact, the Derby goal, the first goal of the game and the first Derby goal came just before half-time, the 45th minute. Of course, like I say, it was Collins who scored it. But really, they probably should have scored more than one in that game, definitely more before they got their first one. Second half, though, Cambridge, it started quite slow, no real side gaining any sort of rhythm, quite tight. Then Cambridge sort of had a little bit of a moment. I mean, Cambridge had a little bit more in that second half compared to what they had in the first, but generally, like I say, Derby, they looked in control. They looked like they weren't going to allow Cambridge to get any type of, like I say, momentum, rhythm, control. And if you don't allow your opposition to do that, you're going to be fine. You're going to be absolutely fine. And it looked like a really professional, well thought out victory. And like I say there as well, another goal for Collins in the 83rd minute, quite late on, sealed the game, wrapped it up, and delivered the 3 points ultimately. Looking at the stats a little bit more detail, 57% possession to Derby County, so we spoke about it being quite a controlling game, and it was generally. First half I expected a little bit more, 67% possession, over 10% more in that first half. Second half a little bit more equal. In fact, Cambridge actually dominated possession in that second half, tried to get a little bit more on the ball, try to sort of hold on the ball a little bit more, try and dictate the game in the way that we know they can do, but they weren't able to. And Derby, they scored the second goal and sealed it. And actually, Derby, when they didn't have the majority of the ball in the second half, they still had more shots. First half, they had more shots as well. In total, 13 shots to 5, only 1 shot on target for Cambridge, not really testing the Derby County defence or goalkeeper much. And that probably would be their downfall. Not much going forward. Derby, they did the job, and they move out of there with a really good, comfortable 2-0 win. That's the first game. And for Warne, a really good start. You want to start off strong, don't you? You want to start off with the 3 points ideally, and he's going to go away thinking, not a bad afternoon, with my first game in charge of the Rams. Let's move on to the next game then. Let's go to MK Dons, because they are part of a 3-2, and a lot of people sort of laughing at my predictions. There's a lot of 2-2 draws. I mean, to be honest with you, quite a lot of 3-2s, 3-3-2s I believe in total, so I'm close. I mean, they're not 2-2 draws, but I did expect goals, I did predict goals, and we did see quite a few of them, and it does start MK Dons against Peterborough United with quite a few of them. 5 goals in total. Let's have a little look at the league table after that 3-2 win to Grant McCann's side. MK Dons, we know, struggling this season. They really are. 20th in the league. They beat Oxford last week, no, the weekend before last, should I say. And I did see an improvement in MK Dons. I thought they did look better. I thought they looked a little bit like the MK Dons of last season, the one with real attacking quality, the ones that try to get hold of the ball, dictate, play quite extreme football, play with those quite high fullbacks, play with those wingers and wingbacks, and just play with such a high line, press really, really high up, and suffocate opponents at times, really suffocate opponents, force them not to be able to sort of play themselves out of trouble, press them so much that you don't really allow them to gain any sort of attacking ability, really, and smother the chances when they come. Unfortunately for MK Dons, it hasn't been that kind of season, and Liam Manning's side are really, really, they are struggling. Let's find the league table here. 20th in the league, another defeat for them, 10 points from 10 games. It's not good. Just above that relegation zone. 14 goals conceded, 11 goals scored. Again, you look at last season, it isn't really anything like it was. You know, they'd be scoring so many more goals, and they wouldn't be conceding the amount they are. And if they were conceding goals, they'd be outscoring their opponent. And this season, they seem to be unable to do that. As for Peterborough, 12 goals conceded, 20 goals scored, really, really scoring the goals. And once again, now back-to-back wins for them. And that's important. That's important because they were struggling. They went on, I think, a 5 or 6 game winless run. Excuse me, a bit of a cold, I'm going to be honest. It's a bit of a cough, bit of a sore throat, but the show goes on. Quite a few defeats on the bounce. I think winless in a lot of competitions as well. They won last week. They win again yesterday, and that's going to be really important for them. Because we know the importance of not playing catch up and making sure you still continue in that pack of Bolton's, Barnsley, Pompey, and everyone around that top 6. You can't really go on a bad run because you will get caught out. A brilliant win over Port Vale the last weekend, and backed up with a really good win against MK Dons. But I imagine it got a little bit nervy because they were 2-0 up in the game. 3rd minute, started strong Peterborough. Johnson Clark-Harris, the number 9 who scores so many goals at this level, and for Peterborough United, does make it 1-0. 36th minute, Poku makes it 2-0. Half-time, 2-0. MK Dons, they're not going to be too happy with that first-half performance whatsoever, and I'm sure Liam Manning isn't either. And Peterborough, they looked in control. You can see pretty much. I mean, MK Dons tried to get a little bit of a spell in the game, but that really, really dominant spell in the middle of all of that really... Yeah, it was such a strong middle half, if you like, of that in that first half. And interestingly, when they did have such a strong part of the game, they didn't actually take their chance. They scored early on, like I said, in the 3rd minute, just in that early spell there. Really dominant spell between about the 30th minute and the 40th minute, but weren't able to score their second, the 3rd goal game straight after that, though. And like I said, that first half performance is really, really good and really comfortable, and allowed MK Dons, or stopped MK Dons, should I say, to sort of really go into half time with anything to... I would say, well, still a lot to play for, but still to build on, because that first half was very, very Peterborough. Second half, they come out fairly strong. They get their 3rd goal. A lot of people were thinking at that point, including myself, this is game over. Ricky J. Jones, the football manager god, some people would call him, scores the 3rd in the 54th minute. Yeah, at that point, it does seem as though it probably will be... game, set and match. It wasn't, though, because of 2 very, very late goals, the 90th minute and the 90+ first minute. Daniel Harvey and Matthew Smith made it 3-2 and made it very difficult, or quite nervous, should I say, for Peterborough, but it wasn't enough. Even those 2 late goals, Peterborough stayed strong, they held strong, and they won the game 3-2. And they'll take that massively, you'd imagine. But yeah, they didn't make it easy for themselves later on in the game, but it was too little too late for MK Dons, and they weren't able to fight back and get anything from the game. Looking at the stats there, MK Dons actually generally dominated possession, which is interesting. They had more of the ball, but when Peterborough came forward, they looked really, really good and really quite dangerous. And we know that Liam Manning's side, they like to have possession, they like to dictate and keep hold of the ball, but they're just not doing enough with it. 61% possession, only 7 shots compared to 39% from Peterborough United side with 20 shots. It is, it's just not the MK side of the previous year under Liam Manning. If they had 61% possession, you expect 20-25 shots last season. 39% possession to Peterborough. That's how many shots they'd normally have with the amount of dominance that they actually do have, but then just not providing that output. Only 4 shots on target in the game. No big chances to 4 big chances across the 90 minutes. It's just not good enough for MK Dons, and that is ultimately why they're struggling. They tried to rescue it late on, but it wasn't enough. Like I said, it was too little too late. Key man, there's a few there. Ricky J. Jones, that front three was dangerous, wasn't it? Ricky J. Jones, Johnson Clark-Harris and Poku all getting in with a goal. That front three really quite dangerous. And it was a good performance from Peterborough United. It was a good performance, even with those 2 late goals going in. That first, you'd say, really up until that goal was conceded, you pretty much say for 80 minutes of the game, they looked very, very much the better side going forward and thoroughly deserved to win the game. But MK Dons, it's not a good result. And it does finish 3-2 to the away side. Right, let's go to Wycombe Wanderers then, because they are they were hosting Plymouth Argyle yesterday. And when we talk about Plymouth Argyle, I want to shout Jack Edwards. He's he's got 2 YouTube channels actually. He's part of the Argyle Way, a really good Plymouth Argyle channel. He's also got his own personal channel as well. The Cornish Tanner, I believe it is, and you'll easily find it. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Like I say, he's got the Argyle Way. He's got a personal channel as well. On his personal channel, he goes to those games, he vlogs those games, and he speaks to some fans outside the ground as well, which I know is obviously a very, very popular element of content these days. Yeah, definitely go and check him out. Really good Plymouth Argyle content creator. And he was happy, I'd say. I spoke to him briefly after the game. I think he was fairly happy with what was quite a hard-fought win. He described it as quite a hard-fought win, which we always knew it would be against the Wycombe Wanderers side, especially Wycombe being at home. They had to dig in. They had to deal with the tough moments of watching Wycombe, I'd imagine, but they did earn that really important 3 points. And really, Wycombe weren't. The first half, Wycombe were good. Wycombe did try and come forward. They did create things. They did look like a dangerous side going forward. A penalty by Plymouth Argyle in the 8th minute converted by Sam Cosgrove. But generally, you'd say Wycombe, in that first half going forward, deserved to get at least 1 goal. But they weren't able to. They didn't take their chances at all in that first half. Only 1 booking in the game as well, playing against Wycombe. Maybe Gareth Ainsworth's changing the way that he's telling his players to be fairly, I'm going to go, aggressive, pragmatic. But really, they weren't that pragmatic in the first half. They looked like they came forward quite often, but weren't able to take their chance. In fact, we can see here 18 shots to the home side. Quite a good game in terms of shots. Quite an attacking game. You can see a lot going on really. When the side was coming forward, they came forward with business. First half, I imagine more shots to Wycombe than there was, and actually more possession as well, which is interesting. More possession to Wycombe across the 90. Very, very rare. 53% to Gareth Ainsworth's side in that first half. 13 shots to 8. Second half, it was actually more shots to Plymouth Argyle. So Wycombe, no shots on target in the second half. That's interesting. You'd have thought after chasing the game, not scoring in that first half when they were very dominant, they come out stronger in the second half, but they didn't. And Plymouth, to be honest, if you did what I imagine Steve Schumacher told them to do, don't allow Wycombe into this game. Don't make it nitty gritty. Take some control. You've got to really hold on to the ball against Wycombe, because they will play very direct. They'll get hold of it and they'll try and create a chance straight away. And they did do that. Their second half Plymouth Argyle performance was really good. They had to dig in. They had to play quite aggressive, I imagine, against them. And I say I imagine, I can see here, they did look good generally for about 30 minutes of the second half. Wycombe tried to score late on, but when you're chasing the game 1-0, you do generally see the side, and being at home as well, come forward and try and desperately salvage something from the game. They weren't able to. In Plymouth, they did hold their back line really, really well, playing a back four, a 4-3-2-1. I imagine, normally they're playing a back three, so that might be slightly wrong, but it does look like a back four there. Michael Cooper, 8.6, their goalkeeper, winning man of the match. That does show you a little bit about the Wycombe performance, how, I guess, aggressive they were coming forward, and how, obviously, Plymouth did have to hold strong. Michael Cooper, 8.6 rating in total, 6 saves, 1 punch, 2 high claims, 5 shots inside the box. He had a busy afternoon, Michael Cooper, but he did hold strong, and he was one of the players, really, that did shine in a hard-fought win for the Argyle. And for them, that does see them second in the league, of course. Ipswich did win, so it does mean that they should be top of the league. They are top of the league still, 25 points. They don't slip away. The ratings are all over the shop here. The rankings and the league standings are a little bit off. They are top of the league on 25 points. They remain top after a really good win. 12 goals conceded, 19 goals scored. They're looking good. They are looking really, really good. And, sometimes maybe they weren't at their best yesterday, but the best teams and the teams that are successful win when they're not at their best. I think Plymouth probably did show that. They weren't bad, but I think Wycombe, they could have got more from that game. They weren't able to. And, they'll be frustrated by that. A home defeat, quite rare for Wycombe actually to lose at home. But this season, they're not doing very well. 19th in the league, 3 defeats on the bounce for them now. We've got them next week at home. Hopefully, we can pile on the misery. So I think it's time we speak about Ipswich versus Pompey. It finishes 3-2 to the home side. Kieran McKenna's team coming out on top. And Pompey's unbeaten start to the season does come to an end. But 5 goals in this game. What a brilliant advert for League One football. I spoke to Tom after the game from 4-0 written all over it, as I always do. Give me a little bit of Pompey insight. And he did say it probably would be Portsmouth's worst performance so far this season. And that will be annoying. In a game like this, they did feel very, very big. Second versus third, I believe, coming into this one. And when you put that sort of type of performance in that isn't man for man the best one yet, you will be punished. And Ipswich will make sure you're punished because they've got such individual quality. So if Pompey, but I think Ipswich showed that individual quality a little bit more than Portsmouth on the day. And you can see 4-4-2, 3-4-2-1 in terms of formation. These are 2 formations that these sides have adapted, but also shown the quality within them since the start of this campaign. And like I say, 5 goals in a game of this magnitude, that is absolutely exceptional. And for League One, that's what this league is all about. Ipswich did start the game the better side, weren't able to take the lead. They were just after that, after Pompey came forward. And of course, it was Marcus Harness, the ex-man, who makes it 1-0. Also, Connor Chaplin, both of them, of course, playing for Pompey in their career before. Combining for the first goal, 25th minute, 1-0. Marcus Harness scores, assisted by Connor Chaplin. 1-1, equalised, penalty given by the referee. 32nd minute, Colby Bishop steps up and converts it. People have asked me to sort of give my thoughts on the penalty. All I'll say is, and the angles aren't great, the angles are not very good at all, so saying it if it isn't or if it is quite hard. But when the goalkeeper runs out, and when a player goes down, and the player goes near the feet of the player, who does in the end go down, the referee's always got to make a big call. And if he doesn't give a penalty, he's obviously going to have to book the player for diving and simulation. But he went with he swayed towards the striker in terms of his decision, and he gives the penalty. Big decision, big call, and it does allow Pompey to get into the game or back into the game at 1-1. So, like I say, I can't say if it is or it isn't. Whenever a player goes down, a goalkeeper dives towards the feet of the player, and he does go down, the referee's got to make a big decision, and he goes to the penalty. That's all I can say on that. And I'll have to look at it again to make a better call on it. But it finishes 1-1 at half-time. And really, Pompey, to be honest, if he didn't really look great going forward, Ipswich probably would be the better side. I'd say were the better side in that first half, definitely the better going forward. Second half, start of the second half, quite equal. Both sides trying to sort of get some sort of attacking rhythm in the game. 2-1, Fred Adapo in the 74th minute. And then in the 79th minute, another penalty. Colby Bishop equalises again, 2-2. Not easy psychologically to score 2 penalties in one game, but he is able to do it. And he does equalise once again for Pompey. And then 1 minute later, Wes Burns, the wide man, playing the right hand side, number 7, similar to the Plymouth and Ipswich goal last weekend. Massive deflection, huge deflection, but they won't care. 3-2 with 10 minutes to go. Try to get something from it, Pompey late on, but really Ipswich try to just see out the game, keep it quite tight, keep hold of the ball. And like Tom said, man for man, it definitely wasn't Pompey's best performance of the season. Going forward, didn't really look like they were going to do too much. 2 penalties. They weren't the free-flowing Pompey football with Dane Scarlett, Owen Dale, Josh Cromer really playing with the width, playing with that sort of amazing dribbling ability that they've got. They just, Marlon Pack was a little bit off the boil. And when someone like him, like Tom said, I think he used the analogy, when he's got a cough or something, all the other players. Tom, you're better than this, but it's a good analogy. I get it. When he's got a cough, the others get the cold. Is that what you're trying to say? Basically, he's quite an influential player, and when he's not on it, the other players aren't on it either. Looking at the stats here, 62% possession, 38% towards the away side. Look, Ipswich dominated. They dominated the game. 18 shots to 7, 6 to 3. Big chances. Well, actually, Pompey had a couple of big chances, but I don't really read too much into that. That's a little bit misleading, those are. But across the game, Ipswich, they probably were the better side and probably did deserve to win the game. if we're being honest. And Pompey, they weren't at their best, and that'll be annoying. But yeah, that's the big game. Or that's disrespectful. But it definitely, it was the big fixture. It was the big fixture of the weekend. And yeah, little quick run through of the other games, because I know we've only spoken about 4. There were some other ones in there of interesting quality we could have easily spoken about. Sheffield Wednesday beating Port Vale 1-0. A tough game, but they did come away with the 3 points. And to be fair, quite end-to-end at times it felt like. 3-2, Burton Albion. Burton getting their second win of the season, defeating Forest Green Rovers. Not a good result, Forest Green whatsoever. I think I got a draw in that one, 1-1. So, yeah, I was very wrong there. Burton scoring 3 goals and outscoring Forest Green Rovers. 1-0 to Barnsley. Michael Duff side score on the road and win on the road against Scott Brown's side. Bolton Wanderers convincing, comfortable 2-0 win over Lincoln City. Finishes 2-0 at the University of Bolton Stadium. 2-2 between Exeter City and Bristol Rovers. 1-1, we spoke about that one. Definitely go and watch that match reaction. Oxford versus Charlton, or Charlton versus Oxford, should I say, on the channel right now. 3-1 to Accrington Stanley against Morecambe. Not a good result for Morecambe, who continue to struggle. And 2-0 Cheltenham between Shrewsbury. A brilliant and convincing win for Cheltenham Town over Shrewsbury, and that'll feel huge for Cheltenham. Again, Taylor, the centre-half, a brilliant performance from him. What a player he is. And yeah, that runs up all the games in Sky Bet League One. Hopefully you did enjoy this episode. Please leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy it. Join the Discord server. Give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Have a good rest of your Sunday. We'll speak soon. I've been Jack. This has been the Unfan Podcast, and I'll see you in a bit. Take care.